Hello Internet, welcome to the Experimental Cataclysm. If you don't know, this is the show where we talk about some of the new things that have come to the experimental version of Cataclysm over the last couple of weeks. I think we did 2 weeks ago, we had an episode. In this particular episode, we're only going to go over 4 or 5 things, but that's because they're going to have a massive impact on the game itself. Now, there have been tons of changes, don't get me wrong, but they mostly are focused around a few big things. And the first thing we're going to talk about is probably the smallest impact of all of the changes. And we're going to talk about the player overmap AutoTravel. We're just going to jump into it. Honestly, very hot today, and I can't record with my AC on, and I really don't feel like just sitting here and sweating for no good reason. So, off we go. So we're going to talk about player overmap AutoTravel, and that's exactly what it sounds like. So basically, David P.W. Brown has set things up so that you can now I wouldn't call it fast travel, but I guess technically it's fast travel. And we're going to look at an example of this in pretty shortly. The gist of it is that you can pick a position on the map from the map screen, and your character will automatically head in that direction. They will show you the route, so you know which squares they're going to move through. And then you confirm it, and your character will automatically move in that direction. Now, anything that affects safe mode, if you have safe mode on, will pull you out of the auto move. So you don't have to worry about bumping into a pack of wolves while you're wandering through the woods. Other than that, I'm sure it's pretty complicated behind the scenes, but for a player, all you really need to know is that this will take you where you're going and can save you some of those long walking trips home. Now, currently this does not work with vehicles, which is important to note. It is something that once this came out, people started talking about, does this work in vehicles? And there was some confirmation that that's something that's being looked at. But for right now, that doesn't actually work with vehicles. So we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to show you how to do it, because that's probably the number one thing that you want to know right now. You don't want to know about the math and the programming. You just want to know how it works. Now we have a character out here in the middle of nowhere. Just a regular old character, and we're going to press M to take us to our map screen, and we're going to select where we want to travel. So there's a cabin out here. Why don't we go over to the cabin? Now if we look here, you'll see the things that are always here, but up here we have this little paragraph that says use movement keys to pan, press capital W to preview route, and press again to confirm. So if we go over to the cabin, this is where we want to go. Let's say our base is in the cabin. We're going to press capital W, and you'll see it's a little difficult to see. I do wish they would change the color for this. But these blue exclamation points represent which tiles we're going to move through. And if we press W again, we will be prompted on whether we want to travel to this location. We select yes, and our character automatically moves over there. Now in this particular example, there was nothing to stop us. This was a nice little simple walk where there were no bad guys, no monsters, no nothing. So, no big deal. Now, it looks like we actually traveled into the building. I don't know why. I'm not sure how it selects where exactly in this tile you actually will travel to, because I've had it give me some wonky locations. But I wish mouse scroll was not on for this, so I could jam my mouse cursor off the side of the screen. We're going to go up here, and this time we're going to try to trigger safe mode. Now I want to point out I have safe mode on. And we're going to try to travel into, let's say, this radio tower. So we'll press W. Once again, it highlights the route that we will take. I'm not sure why it's avoiding this area, because again, I don't know the math behind this, little Automove algorithm. But that's the path we're going to take. We might lose a few seconds, but it's not going to devastate our character. We'll press W again to confirm, and we'll head into town. And you'll see it says monster spotted. Cancel auto move. Now if I say no, it still pulls me out of auto move, and that's because I have safe mode on. So as far as I understand it, no matter what, if you spot something and you have safe mode on, you will be pulled out of the auto move. This is very important. You don't want your face eaten. Now it preserves your route. So if we went back to this and pressed W again, it would ask if we wanted to travel. So it does preserve the initial route. We could, of course, reset this, but the pathing will probably almost always be the same. So this time, what we're going to do, we're going to move back out here, and we're going to try to move to that same location again. We're going to turn off safe mode, and we're going to try to travel to the radio tower, and we will go. This time it prompts us again that we've spotted monsters, and if I select no, we will continue moving. No, I'm not worried about a decayed zombie, fat zombie, no, we're just gonna keep going. And now you'll see we're in a position where we've actually been attacked, which is very bad. Now we can choose not to cancel the auto move. I recommend that in this situation you stop auto moving and address the problem, but we can select no, and we will continue trying to move in that direction, although we will be suffering the attacks of nearby creatures. Now, presumably, you are always walking. I don't believe your character will ever run in order to escape from zombies, so this will probably be constant until we would reach where we're going. Definitely not wearing my headphones, but I could hear all those crashes happening at once, so I'm definitely going to have to edit that sound down. So we're going to cancel auto move, and you'll see our stamina is at full. We've kind of put ourselves in a dangerous position. I highly recommend that if you use auto move, you pretty much stop all the time. But again, this isn't really intended for navigating a town. This is intended for when you are, you're over here and you want to get back to base, which is the cabin, and there's really nothing out there, maybe some animals, and you just, capital W, yes, and all of a sudden you're back at home and you didn't have to sit here pressing hundreds of keys in order to move back home. So definitely a quality of life upgrade, definitely something people have been really wanting for a long time. I know it's not in a vehicle, which is what most of you want, but there is some talk about that being done. People are apparently working on it, is what I've picked up from the forum. The only other thing I want to mention about auto move is that there was some discussion over whether or not you would step on a landmine. As far as I understand, so from the guy who made this, David P.W. Brown, your character tries to actively avoid obstacles like vehicles and furniture. So I assume that extends to lava. I cannot guarantee that. Certainly I would think that before you actually reached and stepped on the lava tile, it would prompt you because you would take damage from the heat of the lava. So I don't think you need to worry about that too much. Landmines, I just don't know. We talked in the previous episode about how landmines were nerfed and now only appear at bridges. And I was unable to find a bridge in the world that had landmines on it for me to test. And spawning them in through the debug menu, I could not get them to spawn with landmines. Now, when I place landmines manually with the debug menu, it doesn't hide them from me. It actually shows them. So I don't know. I kind of feel like landmines prompt you for safe mode. If you're in safe mode and you walk up to a landmine, it will say, really step on a landmine or something like that. So I assume that it would pull you out and give you that prompt, but I cannot guarantee that. However, with the fact that minefields now only occur at bridges, it seems really unlikely that you're going to come across that situation. So just something to be aware of. Like I said, I don't think it would be an issue, but it could potentially be an issue. It seems like one of those things where it's not an issue until all of a sudden it kills one of your characters and then you lose your mind over it because you're furious. So just be a little wary of that. I don't know how much I'm going to use this, to be honest. Maybe just to move a couple tiles at a time. If I'm moving down the block, it might be handy, but definitely a quality of life thing and definitely something people really wanted. So it's pretty cool that they worked on this and got it added to the game. But that's going to do it for this particular topic, I think. So we're going to be moving on. Next thing I want to talk about are there was a change to the way turns work in the game. Previously, a turn took about 6 seconds in game, or it took exactly 6 seconds. And now, if we look at the time, turns actually take 1 second. And you'll see it jumps up by 1 at a time, and then occasionally we'll probably jump up by 2, based on our speed and the terrain that we're moving over. So because of this, previously there were many things that measured things in turns rather than in time. And so by changing time from 6 turns to from changing turns from 6 seconds to 1 second actually made a lot of things break. Now I think they did a pretty good job of trying to sort those things out before it became an issue when they first introduced the change to make it 1 second turn time. However, they missed some things. Most notably, there was a time when butchering was 6 times faster, reading was 6 times faster, you regained stamina 6 times faster, you healed overnight 6 times faster, which we're going to talk about that next, the issues with healing. And so a lot of things were broken. Now, most of them have been addressed. A lot of things have been addressed, like butchering has been fixed, stamina's been addressed, we'll talk about that later, healing's been addressed, we'll talk about that in a minute, and a lot of things have been patched so that they no longer are 6 times faster. Reading has been fixed, things like that. There are some pretty notable things that are still an issue, and one of them that we came across in our Let's Play was metal sawing. So here we have a toolbox and we're at the gun store. I have a clairvoyance artifact, that's why you can see through the wall. We will activate the toolbox to cut the metal bars of the window. If we do that, you'll see it instantly. It took a few seconds, but it instantly cut through the bars. And previously, it would take you quite a long time to cut metal. It would give you lots of messages like zerp, zerp, you're cutting, yeah, zerp, I don't know what sound metal sawing makes. It would give you messages and say, oh, you should be done in 15 minutes or whatever. But now it's instant. So if we take a look here, we're at 121.42. If we cut metal, we're at 121.48. So it took 6 seconds for us to saw through those bars. That's a pretty noticeable issue, but it's not game breaking, so they're not, I don't think, in a rush to fix this. The only other thing that I really wanted to mention was that burning things actually is also much, much faster. So you've probably noticed that you're going through your piles of wood a whole lot faster than you used to. And that's because fires now burn much more quickly. Or rather, they consume fire more quickly. Or, I'm sorry, they consume wood more quickly or something like that. So this is a bit of an issue. Wow, 2 first aid kits in the same bathroom. Pretty nice. Anyway, so I wanted to mention that turn times have changed. I have made issues on GitHub for both the metal sawing and the fire consumption, both with probably about a week old by now. So it's obviously not a priority to them to fix some of the small stuff. Like I said, it's not game breaking. It is annoying to constantly be refilling your wood pile, but it's not something that is going to keep you from playing the game. So I don't think it's a huge priority. And that's fine. But I wanted to point it out. I know there probably are other things that have not been fixed to use the 1 second turn time. So if you start noticing issues in your game where things are a bit funny and you think it's related to time, you should go to the GitHub and check out the issues page and see if they're aware of it. That's why I made the firewood and metal sawing issues, is because even though they're small and don't really matter, they might not know that those are a problem. And so we want them to be able to know that things are a problem so that they will eventually get fixed. And again, low impact stuff is not a priority, but it's good to put it out there so people know that this is happening. There was an issue with crafting times as well. I think that's been addressed though, because food, particularly meat, 0 seconds. That's probably not right. But so, you know, there are still issues, and I wanted to point it out and just talk about it just a little bit. They're not game-breaking, but it's made things a little funny. In fact, that's why we actually don't have that much to talk about this week, is because the majority of the PRs lately and the issues lately that have really stood out to me were them scrambling to fix things that had been broken by the turn time. There just wasn't that much other stuff that really caught my attention. It was mostly bug fixes lately. It seems like it's mostly bug fixes. I could have easily missed some important stuff, but so we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about hit points next and the healing system. All right, so let's talk about the healing rate. So I talked about the changes to turn time. Previously, you would heal over the course of one night most of your hit points. Once they changed the turn time to 1 second, you were healing 6 times faster because of the change in time. Now what that meant was that you could heal from basically no hit points to full in the matter of like 2 hours of sleep. And that's obviously not intended. And so what we got here was a healing nerf, or rather a nerf to the healing rate of the player. This is not super complicated. They did some things that I don't know exactly what, I don't know about Heal All. But the gist of it is that the healing rate previously was 0.01, which is a number that you don't really need to understand. And it has been reduced to 0.0001, which is 100 times slower. Except that it's not actually 100 times slower, because this takes into account the fact that it was 6 times faster. So even though it was 0.01, it was still 6 times faster than it used to be. And so reducing that by 100 actually makes it, maybe my math is wrong, but it's like 16 times slower. It's not actually 100 times slower. But it is a very significant reduction to the rate at which your character will heal. I also wanted to point out that you will heal a minimum of 1 point per 24 hours, whether you're awake or sleeping. As far as I understand it, it doesn't matter if you're awake or asleep. Now, I don't have any footage of our character sleeping prior to this change, so I can't show you the 6 times faster, but most of us are familiar that here we have a character. I've damaged them significantly on every part of their body, and I've given us the self-aware trait so we can see the actual, like, quantifiable value, the number value. And what we're going to do is we're going to sleep. Now, previously, if we were at this hit points, I don't know if we would have fully healed in one night's sleep, but we would be close to the maximum healing. Then after the shift to turn times, we would 100% heal up overnight. And now with the significant reduction in healing rates, I've set everything I can think of to normal baseline, except for our hit points and our tiredness, our fatigue. So what we're going to do, we're going to sleep and we're going to look and see how much health we heal overnight. Now, also, I've been told that using bandages and other health items will help you heal faster. So what we're going to do, we're going to apply bandages to our legs. How about our legs? We will apply bandages to our legs. So now we're going to see the unaffected heal rate on the major body parts, and then we'll see ideally, I think we'll see a slightly increased heal rate on our legs. And if we look in the menu, it says that we've given ourselves average bandages. So what we're going to do is we're just going to sleep. I'm not going to set an alarm. We're going to sleep and see how our healing takes place. Now, normally, we're not sleeping. Why are we not sleeping? Oh, I selected no because I'm a dummy. No alarm. Now, normally, we would heal extremely quickly and we would be regaining hit points. And you'll notice our legs are bumping up, but nothing else seems to be increasing. That's a little concerning. There we go. So I'm not sure what determines what body part gets healed or how quickly it takes place. It looks like our right leg is doing the best. But we're going to sleep for what I assume would be a normal player amount of time. I should have taken note of the time before we started this. You will have the luxury of going back and checking that. Maybe I'll throw that up on screen so you can see how many hours we've slept to compare the actual rate at which we've healed. I personally, I like this change. I think that reducing the heal rate is great. It's going to make you much more cautious when it comes to melee combat. And so here, if we look, you'll see that all of our body parts that were not bandaged regained 5 hit points, which is, again, serious reduction compared to what it used to be. And our right and left leg have healed for more than these other values, and that's because we put bandages on them. Now, I'm not sure how, if you have to change them, I'm not sure if other things like disinfectant will affect your healing rate. But I imagine things like the royal jelly and stuff like that will significantly boost your health. I shouldn't say that because I don't know that for sure. But obviously bandages have an impact. What's that? You hate this change and you want to know how to revert it? Well, you're in luck because I'm going to show you how to fix this. I personally like this change very much. I think the healing rate needed to be nerfed. And I think it adds a layer because now it makes the character question, do I want to take on this horde or do I not? Because I will be laid up for several days if I go in swinging and fight a big horde. The problem I see with this is that it's going to significantly boost people's desire to use the spears. They've tried previously to nerf the spears because everyone uses them. And I think this change really incentivizes using a spear because you're keeping your body from being at risk of damage. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to go to Data, you're going to go to JSON, and in JSON we have the gamebalance.json. And if we open this up, you will find, let's look for heal. Nothing for heal. Okay, it's here somewhere. Let me take a look around. Oh, because I had match case on. So you can just search for heal or healing, and it will bring you down here to the NPC, the player and NPC healing rate. And if you want things to be the way they used to be, just go ahead and reduce that to 0.01, which is the original value. Now, unfortunately, once again, this will not take into account the changes made with the turn time. So if you really want the original pre-turn time values, I believe you would want this to be 0.6. But that's not something, that's something you're going to decide for yourself. I really have no say in that. And so now if we pop into bed here, same character, same setup, you'll see that we're healing much, much faster than we did previously. Obviously, in fact, we will fully heal within a couple of hours of us going to sleep. So that's one way that you can change this. The issue with that is that if you make that change, and so that's our max hit points. If you make this change in the game balance.json and then you update your game will overwrite this change and reduce it again to 0.0001. I'm going to save that because I don't want fast healing on my character. Now, alternatively, this still didn't exit. Alternatively, there is a mod. I suggested when this was being released that we include a mod so that players wouldn't come and scream about it on the forums, basically, because I thought people were going to hate it. And they pointed out that there is already a fast healing mod. Now, I don't know what's in this mod, but I do know that it doesn't do exactly what we want it to do. So if you don't want this to be reset every time that you update your game, you're going to have to make a mod. And I'm going to show you just real quick how to do that. We're going to look for, basically, you should go to manual bionic install, and you're going to copy the files that exist in there. We're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this old heal rate. We're going to go to that folder, and we're going to pop in there, and we're going to paste these files that we copied in here. We're going to edit the modinfo.json, and you're going to rename this. Basically, what you need to change is the name, which we'll call the old heal mod. You need to change the ident. Really can be anything. You can just put gibberish in if you want. You can change the description, but you don't have to do any of these things. All you have to change is the ident. Everything else can be the same, I think. But you might want to change the name as well so it's a little more clear. In fact, you should change it because this is what will display in the world creation. And if you have duplicates, it won't make sense. So we'll save this. Shout out to XQiz who did this because we're going to be using your stuff. And we're going to go back to our mod folder. We're going to open the gamebalance.json. And what we're going to do instead of this, so you see there are open and closing brackets as well as open curly braces. What we're going to do, we're going to delete everything in between the curly braces. We're going to leave that space there. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to copy from, actually, you know what? That's my mistake. We're going to get rid of these curly braces. All we want are square brackets. In opening and closing square bracket, and we're going to copy from the curly brace under NPC healing. Do exactly what I'm doing here. Up to the curly brace before player healing. We're going to copy this. We're going to paste this in here. And now we're going to change this back to, we're going to change it to 0.6 because I think that's what it would need to be in order to be the original heal rate. Now if we save this and you have to close your game and relaunch your game in order for this to work, we will go to a new world. We will get rid of everything here. We would pick our mods as we normally would. We would scroll to the balance section and we would go to old heal mod. We would install that. We would create a new world. And as far as I know, that is what you need to do. Let's see if we get any errors. And indeed, we do not get any errors. And now any world that uses this mod will have the old heal rate as opposed to using the fast healing mod, which does other things. Maybe you don't want it to do other things. But as far as I know, our character should now be having the old heal rate. And to prove that, I have no idea why we started in the middle of nowhere. I guess because we used the random character. I'm going to find us a bed, set some of our hit points a little lower, and we will test to make sure that our mod works. So I will be quiet. I will be back when I'm done with the editing. Actually, after testing, I realized that we did this wrong. We should not have multiplied this by 6. We should have divided it by 6. I don't know what 0.01 divided by 6 is, so we're just going to make this 0.003, I think would be fine. You would set this to whatever you feel is appropriate, and then we'll go in the game and I will show you that this works. And so here's our character. We are partially damaged, we are tired again, and we will sleep, and you will see that we are healing much faster than we in the previous examples, but it's much more in line with the original heal rate as opposed to the ×6 heal rate. You can dial this in, you can set this mod to whatever feels appropriate to you, and this will not be overwritten when you update your game, so long as you are using the mod that you have set up. Whatever the mod you named, as long as it is active on your world, it will apply. And it looks like we will fully heal overnight, which is fine because that's mostly what happened before anyway. So hopefully you are equipped at this point to take care of this. And that's really all I have to say about it. I like the healing nerf. I would encourage you to play with the new heal rates and just get used to it, because I do think that it makes combat a little more complicated. In fact, for simplicity's sake, I think that I'm going to upload this mod to my GitHub, so if you're interested, you can just download the mod so you don't actually have to do all the work that I pointed out earlier. I may or may not do that. I'll probably keep in how to do it, and I might upload to my GitHub, so you can find that in the description down below if in fact I do that. Now let's talk about stamina. So this is probably the most game-breaking thing I've run into in a long time. The gist of it is that the stamina has been rebalanced to account for the 1 second turn time. Now I'm not going to go over every little change in this PR. You'll see, so here is basically a list of all the things that it has changed. And there's, 15 or 20 small aspects to this change. So we're not going to discuss all of that. What we are going to discuss are two main things that have been really troublesome for people. Number one is the effect that it has had on muscle-powered vehicles. Currently, so it's currently Thursday at 6:09 EST. Currently in the game, driving a muscle-powered vehicle is not at all viable. And this is because even at slow speeds, your stamina drains more quickly than it regenerates. And so you can't ride a bicycle or really pilot a boat because you will just run out of stamina. And then you will suffer some really negative status effects, which is the other problem, which is the thing we're going to talk about next. And then the other thing was the stamina loss that occurs when you're pulping. Unfortunately, currently in the game, pulping corpses deals quite a lot of reduction to your stamina. And if you've basically, with these stamina changes, when you get into combat, you will lose stamina through combat. And then when the combat is finished, you try to pulp a corpse, you will immediately lose a big chunk of stamina, and this can set off those really negative status effects. And we're going to talk about those, and I'll show you some footage in a moment of what that looks like. This is particularly troubling to me because if you've played Cataclysm, you know that if there are multiple corpses on the same tile, you will automatically pulp all of them at once. Since you're not prompted on how many to pulp, your character completely pulps everything on that tile. And this can result in a massive loss of stamina, especially if you've just dealt with a horde and there are many corpses in one tile. And so we're going to look at this, and we're going to talk about the winded effect, which is very, very bad. So this is a video from, I was trying to do a Let's Play. It's the mall, the failure mall. I was trying to record some Let's Play of the mall. I apologize for the player. Let's see if we can get some of that screen out of there. And so we're going to watch here. Turn down the volume. I don't want the audio. It doesn't matter. So in the previous seconds before this, I have dealt with a small horde, which consisted almost exclusively of regular zombies. I think there were 6 or 7 in total. And then I proceeded to smash all of their bodies. And you'll see our stamina has reduced to what is basically... Let's pause. Stamina has been reduced really significantly. Now, if you look, you'll see I am in minimal pain. I have pretty okay stats at the moment. My speed is a little low, but there's no other issues. I'm not hungry. I'm not tired. My body isn't damaged. I don't have a lot of pain. And everything is fine. Now, it's 8:38 and 23 seconds. And let's see what happens in the course of the next, 20 turns or so. I'm sorry. We continue to pulp a corpse, which reduces our stamina completely. And you'll see all of a sudden, our stats have taken a very significant dip, and that we are in a distressing amount of pain, as well as we are now thirsty. And if we continue, you'll see we just walk away. We don't fight anything else or pulp anything else. We just continue about our business. And if I pause here, you'll see our stats have continued to reduce, and that we are now in severe pain, as well as our speed having dropped down to 39, about a third of what it was originally. And we are now very thirsty. And if we let this play out for a few more seconds, this is the point where I kind of realize in game that there's something wrong. You'll see we are in severe pain. Our stats have dropped basically to 0. We are now dehydrated, and we are also tired despite our character only being alive for 40 minutes in-game time. And the reason that this happens is this winded effect right here. When you lose all of your stamina, you get this winded effect. Let's see if we hover over it. I believe that we do. And this winded effect causes pain to your character. It reduces your needs, like thirst, so that you're more thirsty. It reduces your restfulness, so you become very, very tired. And this is a real problem. Ignore the secondary mouse cursor. This was me explaining in the episode what is happening, trying to understand, because I didn't know that this change had come down. And this is extremely crippling. And in fact, our pretty promising starter character here immediately dies. As soon as we come across a zombie here in the future, it destroys us because we are in no fighting condition. These stats are as low as they can be. So here we hover over the winded effect. You'll see it has had a significant effect on our person. It also seems to stack, which is an issue because obviously it's draining more than just -4 strength here. It causes pain, thirst, hunger, and sleepiness. And you'll see we're beginning to experience all of those effects. And then we proceed to be murdered by zombies because we have no ability to protect ourselves. Our stats are literally 0. We are dead tired. We are dying. And so that's a really big deal because all we did, we fought a handful of regular old zombies, pulped their corpses, and then walked down a hallway. And that was enough to devastate our character to the point that we can't play the game anymore. So I would highly, highly recommend that you not update your game. This, I think, came down Wednesday afternoon. So if you are not on a current experimental, I would recommend you do not update until this stuff gets worked out. Now, there's been a lot of talk about it on the forums. People are understandably upset by this. Specifically, this particular issue came up, and people are pointing out that the pain levels associated with being winded is absurd. It can destroy your character. And then after a bit of discussion, it kind of gets hammered down that, hey, it's not actually the stamina that's the issue. It's the winded effect. It seems to be stacking. It's destroying characters. It makes you super hungry. It doesn't matter how, you can go from fully rested, fully fine, to starving and passing out from, sleep deprivation within a few seconds, within a minute in-game time. And then I chimed in about the pulping being an issue. And I like that they nerfed stamina. This is what I said here. I like that they nerfed the stamina because your character could run for a really long time, more or less. And there were things that, I would like to see. But with the pulping is a real issue because you kind of need to pulp things. And if you butcher things, you don't experience this same issue because they built in a failsafe into the butchering so you would never completely deplete your stamina during butchering. And basically the gist of it is that there's already been a push Well, there's been a PR to fix this. I think there have been several PRs actually to fix this. So here's one that's supposed to address the issues with not being able to ride a bike or power a boat, to fix the amount of stamina that gets drained while you're doing so. These are known as muscle vehicles. And also, pretty much immediately, someone put in a change to fix the winded effect. In fact, it looks like the winded effect has been updated about 10 minutes ago. So that is incorrect. I apologize. I'm obviously not 100% on top of things. Looks like the winded effect has been nerfed. The general point of this PR was to take away its ability to destroy your hunger, thirst, and fatigue, and it caps out the pain at around 20, which should help with this a lot. So it may be safe at this point to update your game. Like I said, these fixes exist. They just haven't all been merged. And here it appears that this has been fixed and merged into the game as of 10 minutes ago. So it probably is safe to update, because it was the winded that's really was the devastating thing. And then additionally, there have been, for exactly what I just talked about how pulping doesn't have a failsafe, and this has been added to prevent you from, basically it reserves a third of your max stamina. And you can think of it like, instead of working yourself to the point of exhaustion, your character is taking a break in the middle of pulping just to get a breather, just to get their breath back, rather than pushing their body to the breaking point every time you pulp something. So the fixes exist. It's just a matter of getting them all merged, which could take, probably will be addressed today, because it is a very severe issue, but also, might take a day or two to get resolved. So I wanted to touch on that. It looks like, again, most of these things are being fixed, but definitely needed to talk about it. Definitely a lot of people had a reaction to this, and I wanted to touch on it pretty much as soon as I saw about it. And again, it cost me a pretty promising character, really through no fault of my own. And that was pretty upsetting, because I literally got through basically the entire recording. I usually call it around the 24-minute mark. And then we died. A horrible, agonizing death for doing what, I've done hundreds of times in the game. Fought a couple zombies and pulped them. So I was really, really upset by that. But anyway, and I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Experimental Cataclysm. Hope you learned something. Hope that this talking about it has maybe eased some of your concerns about the changes that are coming. They're still playable for the most part. Stamina is a little wonky, but there's really nothing too devastating about this. It's going to require some time for you to acclimate. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe click that like button. Maybe consider subscribing. I'm desperate for your approval, so help me out, hook me up. But that's going to do it, and we will be back with more of the Experimental Cataclysm sometime in the future.